We often look at the history of the World Cup through the lens of the big nations. France, Argentina, Germany, Brazil, Italy. Wait, never mind. Well, in this video, we're going to tell the stories of the 10 lowest ranked nations in the FIFA rankings to qualify for the 2026 World Cup. Stories of countries with just 150,000 inhabitants. Stories of countries stepping onto this stage for the very first time. So let's kick things off at the very bottom. The lowest ranked side to qualify for this tournament, New Zealand. Ranked 85th, right? We start at the very bottom of this list. The worst ranked national team from the World Cup. And here's the honest truth about how they got here. The system changed, and they were in the right place at the right time. For years, the All-Whites would win Oceania, go to an intercontinental playoff, and lose. 2022, lost to Costa Rica. Before that, same story. It became almost a tradition. Win the Confederation, get eliminated before the tournament even starts. But in 2026, for the first time ever, Oceania got a guaranteed direct spot. No playoffs. No last chance match against a South American side. New Zealand won their region, and they're in. Chris Wood is the big star of this New Zealand side. But Joe Bell at Viking in Norway and Liberato Kakis at Wrexham are also key players to watch in this squad. They're in Group G with Belgium, Iran, and Egypt. Are the All-Whites just here for the ride? Or can they actually cause some problems in that group? Haiti. Ranked 83rd, Haiti's last World Cup was 1974. Just sit with that for a second. Everything that has happened in Haiti since 1974. The earthquakes, the political collapses, the sheer weight of everything that country has had to carry. And football survived to all in it. This squad was built almost entirely on the diaspora. Players who grew up away from Haiti in Europe or North America, but chose to represent where they came from. Dukans Nazan at Esteghlou in Iran, Jean-Jacques at Philadelphia Union in the United States, and Jean Rittner Bellegarde at Wolverhampton in the Premier League, the three standout names in this Haitian squad. They landed in Group C, Brazil, Morocco, and Scotland. And honestly, that image, a country that went through everything Haiti went through, sharing a pitch with one of tournament favorites, that's what represents the World Cup in one frame. Turaka, ranked 82nd. Okay, this one, 150,000 people. That's the population of Turako. It's a small Caribbean island with autonomous status within the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And they have qualified for the 2026 World Cup. That is, and I mean this genuinely, the most statistically improbable result of the entire qualification cycle. Anywhere, from any confederation. Nothing else comes close. The reason they can even compete at this level is the Dutch connection. Players formed in Dutch academies who chose to represent Curacao, including Taith Chong, who came through Manchester United's youth system, and now plays for Sheffield United. Kenji Gore at Maccabi Haifa in Israel, and Juninho Bakuna at Volendam in the Netherlands. A squad built almost entirely on that diaspora pipeline. They drew Group E Germany, Ecuador, Ivory Coast. One of those beautiful stories that only a 2018 World Cup can give us. Ghana, ranked 74th. Ghana are a bit different to everyone else on this list, because this isn't a story about an underdog. This is a story about a team that had no business underperforming, and finally stopped. Ghana is not some small nation trying to prove a point. The Black Stars are one of the most traditional football countries on the African continent. 4 Africa Cup of Nations titles. A team that has consistently been present at World Cups for the past 2 decades. And their best moment? 2010. South Africa. Quarterfinals against Uruguay. And if you know, you know. Asamoah Gyan. The penalty. The crossbar. Luis Suarez's handball on the line. One of the most controversial moments in the history of this tournament. Ghana were minutes away from becoming the first African nation to reach a World Cup semi-final on home soil. It didn't happen, but that team earned a permanent place in the memory of this competition. After that, though, some inconsistent years, results that didn't match the talent, rankings that slowly slipped. And that's exactly why they're sitting at 74th today. But 2026 qualification told a different story. They moved through the African group without drama. And the squad they're bringing? Mohamed Kudus at Tottenham, one of the best attacking midfielders in the Premier League. Antoine Semenyo at Manchester City, a very good forward, and Inaki Williams, the athletic Bilbao winger who, by the way, chose Ghana over Spain. Now they're in Group L with England, Croatia, and Panama. And England fans, you remember 2010. Rustenburg. Essien, Asamoah Gyan. That game still lives in a very specific corner of the English football memory. Maybe Ghana can cause some real trouble against Croatia or England. Cape Verde, ranked 69th. Here's a name you might not have heard of before this qualification cycle: Cape Verde. An archipelago in the Atlantic Ocean. 596,000 people. No World Cup history whatsoever. And in African qualification, they won their group ahead of Cameroon. Cameroon, 5-time African champions. A country of 30 million people with a World Cup record going back decades. Cape Verde, with 500,000 inhabitants, finished above them. Logan Costa at Villarreal in La Liga, Bruno Varela at Al Hazm, and Gary Rodriguez are the 3 best players on this team. Group H: Spain, Uruguay, Saudi Arabia. Their match against Spain is going to be something genuinely special to watch. Pedri, Lamine Yamal, the whole thing against a nation that, until recently, most football fans couldn't have placed on a map. That game will tell you everything you need to know about why this tournament has 48 teams. Bosnia and Herzegovina, ranked 65th, the team that knocked Italy out. Right, let's get into it. Bosnia were at the 2014 World Cup, the generation of Djeko, Pjanic, Ibisevic, arguably the most talented group of players their country has ever produced since becoming an independent nation from Yugoslavia. They went out in the group stage. And then came 12 years of near misses and false dawns, and a federation that couldn't get out of its own way. But how they qualified for 2026? Honestly, UEFA couldn't have written a better script. Playoffs. Beat Wales on penalties. Then the playoff final against Italy. In Zenica, the Azzurri, world champions in 2006, but carrying the weight of 2 consecutive absences. Drew 1-1 after 90 minutes and lost on penalties, 4-1. Italy are out of a 3rd consecutive World Cup. Sarajevo went absolutely berserk. And Edin Dzeko, 38 years old, now at Schalke, was part of it. The greatest scorer in Bosnian history, at what will almost certainly be his final tournament. When he walks out for that first game in 2026, there's going to be a moment. I guarantee it. But this isn't just Dzeko's story. Gurmantern Dimirovic at Stuttgart and Esmer Bajraktarevic at PSV are 2 pillars of this generation as well. Group B is Canada, Qatar, and Switzerland. Bosnia have every chance of making it through to the next round. Jordan. Ranked 63rd, Jordan have never played at a World Cup. Not once. And for years, they were that team. Good enough to be frustrating. Not quite good enough to cross the line. Perennial nearly men of Asian football. And 2023 happened. Asian Cup final. They beat South Korea, knocked out Iran, reached the last game. Lost to Qatar in the end, but the point was made. Something had shifted. In 2026 qualification, they didn't need playoffs. They finished in the direct spots from the toughest part of Asian qualifying. That's a project that matured at exactly the right time. Nasser Al-Tamari plays for Rennes in League One. He's technically excellent, intelligently positional, the kind of player you'd watch for 5 minutes and think, how is he not at a bigger club? Ali Olwan at Al Sayyah in Qatar and Yazan Al-Naimat at Al Arabi are also key figures in this Jordanian squad. Group J, Argentina, Austria, Algeria. No realistic path to the next round. But the thing is, Jordan aren't going to 2026 to calculate their chances. They're going because they've never been, and because a country that's been waiting decades for this moment deserves to be there. Jordan fans are already celebrating, just for being on the biggest stage in football. Saudi Arabia, ranked 61st November 22nd, 2022. You know what happened. Argentina? Luceo, a 2-1 Saudi. Victory that sent shockwaves through the entire tournament and genuinely made the football world stop and recalibrate. Messi, frozen. Salem al-Dawsari, running into the corner, arms open. Saudi Arabia went out in the group stage that year. But that goal, that result, it planted something. A proof of concept. On the right day, with the right setup, this team can do extraordinary things. Al-Dawsari is still there. Said Abdurrahman plays for Lens in League One, one of the very few Saudi players with consistent top-level European experience. And Mohamed Kano at Al Hilal, one of the most important midfielders in the Saudi League. The domestic investment is slowly feeding the national team. Saudi Arabia could potentially sneak through in third place. This is not a bad team by any means. They can go through to the next round. But with Spain and Uruguay in the group, it's going to be very difficult to see Saudi Arabia picking up a positive result. South Africa. Ranked 60th, South Africa hosted the 2010 World Cup. Shabalala's goal against Mexico in the opening game, one of the great moments in the tournament's history. The vuvuzelas, the noise, the collective eruption of an entire continent getting its first World Cup. I remember watching that as a kid and thinking, this is something different. And then, afterwards, nothing. Bafana couldn't build on it. Missed qualification after qualification. The host nation became the cautionary tale about what happens when a country gets the tournament, but not the infrastructure around it. 2026 changes that. They led their African group. No drama. Ronwen Williams, honestly one of the best goalkeepers in Africa right now, is their foundation. Percy Towell, Lyle Foster at Burnley. There's experience here too. This can be a competitive team at the World Cup. But forget the squad for a second, because their Group A opening game is against Mexico. South Korea and the Czech Republic are also in the group. The same fixture. The same two countries. 16 years on. The last time they met at a World Cup, it finished 1-1. And Shabalala's goal is still one of the most iconic moments this tournament has ever produced. Group A is one of the most balanced groups of the entire tournament. A genuine group of death. But honestly, I think South Africa have a very real path to the next round. Iraq national team. Ranked 57th, Iraq's last World Cup was Mexico 1986, 40 years ago. Between then and now, you know what happened. Wars, sanctions, a federation that collapsed, players who trained in conditions that most of us genuinely cannot imagine. For 4 decades, Iraqi football existed in a kind of parallel universe, separate from the world, trying to survive, never quite able to reach back in. But here's what I need you to understand about how Iraq qualified for 2026, because it is genuinely one of the most extraordinary qualification stories in the history of this tournament. They went through every single stage of Asian qualification, finished third in round 3, which in most formats sends you home. Got another chance through the expanded format. Round 4, second in their group, still not enough. 2-leg playoff against the UAE in round 5, survived that. Then, an intercontinental playoff final in Monterrey, Mexico, against Bolivia. Ayman Hussein, their captain, scored in the 85th minute, 2-1, full time. That goal was the last qualifying goal scored anywhere in the world for the 2026 World Cup, the absolute final moment of a 2-year, planet-spanning process, and it belonged to Iraq. I don't care how much you know about football. That should give you chills. Group I. France, Senegal, Norway. Mathematically, almost impossible. Narratively, Iraq don't need to beat France. They don't need points. They've already done the thing that mattered. They came back after 40 years. And on the day, their captain steps onto that pitch, wearing the Iraqi shirt at a World Cup for the first time since 1986. There will be people watching in Baghdad who waited their entire adult lives for that moment. That's what football is. And all of that becomes even more symbolic when you remember this World Cup is in the United States. So that's your list. 10 nations at the very bottom of the FIFA rankings, heading to the biggest tournament on the planet. And look, I'm going to say it clearly. I'm in favor of the 2018 World Cup because the game has changed. Football is more globalized than it has ever been. Players from the Caribbean training in Dutch academies. African squads with Premier League regulars. Asian teens qualifying without needing playoffs for the first time. The gap is closing, and it's closing fast. International football is more competitive and more balanced than at any point in history. The world can handle 48 teams. The stories in this very video are the proof. Do you agree with me? Or do you see it differently? Drop your opinion in the comments. I want to know what you think about the 48-team World Cup. And if the 2026 World Cup has got you hooked, there's another video on the channel going even deeper into the tournament. Worth sticking around for.